and welcome back to the F2 show. I'm your host, Fraser Ford, and I'm delighted to be joined by Inside F2 editor Hannah Prufrock and Motorsport PR and social media specialist Adam Newton. Firstly, how are we both? All all right?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, Adam, you okay?
Yeah, not bad myself. Thanks, Fraser. Good to be here.
Yeah, good. And we also have a special guest for today. We have former HWA Formula 2 and Formula 3 driver and current Rocket Venturi Racing Formula E reserve driver, Jake Hughes. Jake, how are you and where in the world are you right now?
I'm good. How is everyone? I'm in near Stuttgart, a town called Ludwigsburg, just outside Stuttgart. I was doing a simulator, post-Monaco simulator with the Formula E team. So yeah. Busy as usual.
Good. Keeping you busy. Let's go to it. So coming up on today's show, we preview the Monaco weekend in what promises to be a fascinating round 2 of the championship. We catch up with a few drivers to see what their thoughts are ahead of the weekend. And is Monaco past its sell-by date? Controversial topic, but we discuss all. An incredibly entertaining season so far. But Jake, there were a lot of outstanding performances. Who stood out for you in the opening round?
I mean, there was plenty, but I think Oscar Piastri was quite a noticeable mention. I mean, obviously, I raced him last year in F3. Very quick guy, very wise head on young shoulders. Although, let's say, I think it was race 2, I believe, or race 3. I can't remember the one where they had a little bit of a shunt with Dan. But I think apart from that, he put together a very strong debut weekend, and actually very much like he did in F3 2020, he won the first race of the season, I think. So he looks strong already.
Yeah, he's had a strong start, and I think he's only going to go from strength to strength. Some good performances, but equally some drivers who probably came away a little bit disappointed. Adam, do you think?
There's always going to be winners and losers, isn't there? Especially with this new format, which kind of is a bit more punishing than last year's. I think someone we might talk about a bit later, Robert Schwartzman, won't be particularly happy with his start to the season. Felipe Drugovich as well, only scored 2 points. So still 7 rounds to go for them to catch up, and a lot of points can be scored in one round. So, it's not the end of the world, but not an ideal start for those two, definitely.
Yeah, a long way to go yet. We won't be writing anyone off just yet. And Hannah, we had you on the show a few weeks ago. It's great to have you back with us. On the show, you said that you thought the rookies had outshone the drivers. The returning drivers in Bahrain. Is the test and those extra hours in the car, that's only going to make the rookies feel even more comfortable for the next round and for the rest of the season, right?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the most difficult things probably being a rookie, especially coming to Formula 2 at the moment. It's just the lack of testing time you get before that opening round. And we saw how well, obviously, they performed last time out in Bahrain, and having a lot of confidence and knowledge in the car. A lot of drivers got a heck of a lot of mileage in overall. And so I would say there's probably going to be a fair few of them feeling a lot more confident, especially heading into Monaco, where there's likely to be a couple of challenges up and down the grid.
Yeah, definitely. Monaco is prone to that, isn't it? So let's take a look at the championship standings after round 1. Guan Yu Zhou leads the way after a pole position and feature race victory in the opening weekend sent him to the top of the standings. Red Bull Juniors, Liam Lawson and Jehan Deruva are hot on his heels, with Sprint Race 2 winner Oscar Piastri and Dan Tickton not too far behind. Yuri Vips will be hoping to get off the mark this weekend after a disappointing weekend in Bahrain. And there were 7 drivers who failed to get off the mark in round 1. Are we going to see a few of those in the points this weekend in Monaco? We'll wait and see. Now, before we discuss Monaco, let's take a lap on board of the Monte Carlo circuit with Luke.
Hello everyone, Monaco is one of the most challenging circuits on the Formula 2 calendar. 19 corners, and the main overtaking opportunity might come at Sandoval Turn 1 with DRS on the main straight. Monaco is also home to Lowes Hairpin, the slowest corner on the Formula 2 calendar. The last time we went to Monaco was 2019, where Nick de Vries and Anthoine took victory over the 2 races. It should be a good weekend. Now let's take a look at the lap.
Hello everyone and welcome to Inside F2's track guide for Monaco. Into Sandoval Turn 1, get really close to the barrier on the exit, and now we're accelerating up the hill towards Massenet. It's slightly blind on the way in. Hug the barrier on the left hand side, then hook it right. Now down the hill towards Mirabeau, so easy to lock a front. Now Lowe's hairpin, crank on every bit of lock you can find. This is lower Mirabeau, just touch the pavement on the inside. Portier, and now into the tunnel. The kink is flat up, we burst into the sunshine, bring it to the right hand side, downhill braking for the Novell chicane. And now we're on the way to the back. One down jig, smash the throttle pedal on the way out. This is the swimming pool chicane. And now 2 corners to go, Raskas, very easy to look up. Now 1 corner to go, Anthoine Noge, clear the apex, and now open the DRS, over the line, and that's a lap of Monaco.
Jake, what are the key preparations when a driver is driving a street circuit? Do you approach it differently?
I mean, from my point of view, I don't think I ever really approached it differently on the weekend itself. I mean, I feel like if I use Macau as an example, when I first went there in 2016, I did a lot of simulator prep for that. Obviously, it's a street track where your mistake is punished more, and with that regard, with that being said, you need to feel more comfortable, or especially more comfortable with what you've done prep-wise before the event, so that you don't have to, or you can minimize the sort of wasted energy you might expend thinking about things that don't really matter. So prep is a big thing. But I mean, also, street tracks, you need to be very confident. It's somewhere where you can't practice outside of the simulator. So in a way, everybody's kind of in the same boat. But I think in Monaco itself, I mean, we saw it a little bit in 2019 with F1 as well, with F2 that weekend, that tyre warm-up tends to be more of an issue than tyre degradation. But yeah, just the limited laps to get up to speed like we have in F2 and F3 as well. And then when you put down a street track, it only gets more difficult, that sort of lack of track time. So I think the guys will be spending a lot of time at the factory before this.
Yeah, you'd like to think so. And what are the do's and don'ts as a driver? Is there any that stand out for you?
Crash, don't crash. No, I mean, again, I've never driven Monaco myself, but to use Macau, which I think is probably the king of street circuits, as an example, you're sort of drilled into the mindset by the team before the weekend that you don't crash in first practice. You don't start the weekend on a bad foot, because it takes, I wouldn't say so long, but it takes longer than, going to Bahrain, for example, to build up the confidence to push it, 100% on a qualifying lap. And if you crash straight away, you're building that up all the way still in qualifying, and that's your weekend done if you don't put that lap together. So, yeah, building it up calmly, seeing the sort of bigger picture that the points are done in the race, but set from the grid position in qualifying, and practice is just getting your eye, and you don't need to be fastest in practice.
How difficult is that if you were to crash in practice, and as you said, the confidence levels drop, you don't feel like you can push it? How does that impact throughout the weekend? It
depends. I mean, I haven't had that case myself in practice on a street track. I mean, maybe you could say I wasn't pushing hard enough to ever have that issue. But no, I think different drivers will deal with it differently. I think, the likes of driver that just sort of, for a better a cliche, send it and sort of happier to sort of throw the car at the scenery and see if it sticks. I don't think it will affect those as much as, let's say, the ones that like to keep it smoother and build up. Subconsciously, you're going to hold something back. So it depends on what point in the weekend it happens. If it happens on, you say you do a good enough lap for a pole, and then you crash the next lap, I don't think it really bothers you. It's sort of the circumstances that make it. But you need to be careful about where you expend your energy or your token, so to speak.
Yeah, okay. I suppose the drivers will be bearing that in mind this weekend. All the drivers, they love Monaco, don't they? But is Monaco a race that the fans actually enjoy, Adam?
For the occasion, yes. For the racing, maybe no. It's a bit of a strange one because it's this iconic place and iconic circuit, but we more in Formula 2 and especially in Formula E recently, rather than in Formula 1, we see a bit of good racing, but not not so much. So for the occasion and for just the thrill of seeing the cars go so close to the barrier, I think it is worth it, but it can sometimes get a little bit boring.
Yeah, interesting. So, we're not going to Barcelona, we're not going to Austria, we're not going to Spa this year, Hannah. Would you rather have seen one of those circuits on the calendar instead of Monaco? Or would Formula 2 be missing out if we weren't going to Monaco because of the spectacle?
It's a difficult one. I would say I like Monaco's that track that to me is like the Marmite of all the tracks on the calendar this year. It's you either love it or you hate it. I think Formula 2 definitely missing out on the spectacle of it. I think that's one of the things with, say, the weekend in Monaco overall, is it does bring that level of prestige to all of the races, not just the Formula 1 race. I would say there's probably other tracks in the F2 calendar this year that I'd have off before I would remove Monaco. So it's a challenge for the drivers. It's going to test them to the limit. So hopefully, and normally Formula 2 delivers on the action. So.
And Jake, from a driver's perspective, did you understand the fans' frustration at Monaco perhaps not providing the best racing sometimes?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I get it. We look forward to this every year, or not with last year, obviously. There's a big build up to it. It's obviously, as everyone says, it's the showpiece of Formula 1 and the Formula 2 calendar, indeed. But I don't think it will ever change. I don't see a way to adapt the circuit massively at the moment. And like I say, it's the same argument every year. We kind of just kid ourselves into thinking through practice and qualifying that the race is going to be something special, and it never is. But me personally, I kind of just accept that for what it is. We know before the weekend that it's not going to be, it is going to be a processional race, but that's not the attraction of Monaco. It's qualifying, to be honest. It's seeing the cars and the drivers push their cars to the limit between the rules to thread it, who can risk it the most and get away with it. It's the glitz, it's the glamour, it's the reason why people turn on, just for the fact that it's called the Monaco Grand Prix, irrespective of, even though everyone that clicks on knows there's not going to be many overtakes. So I sort of, it's its own thing, really. I sort of let it get away with it and accept it for how good it is as a driver's track.
And you've driven some great tracks. If you were in charge of the Formula 2 calendar and you could pick any 8 circuits in the world for Formula 2 to race at, which circuits would you choose, and would Monaco be in there?
Monaco would be in there. I'd probably put Baku in as well, just for it's crazy. Every single race is mayhem. So that would be in there. Spa, Monza for sure, Silverstone. I love Budapest personally. I think in Formula 2 it works really well. Maybe in Formula 1 there's not a lot of overtaking, but I think in Formula 2 it works well. I would be interested to take it to Macau for sure. I mean, it's another street circuit, but I think Formula 2, I would probably be too fast for Macau, honestly, especially after driving F3 there in the current F3 car. But I would love to see it regardless. Probably Mugello as well. Probably be my 8th one.
Okay, interesting. Okay, Mugello as well. So that's you've got Baku. I mean, Baku always produces crazy races. Can you imagine going to Macau after in a Formula 2 car? That'd be crazy, wouldn't it?
I mean, we were reaching in 2019 there, we were reaching 310, I think, with DRS Open, 310 kph before famous Lisboa turn 3, and it's bumpy. So doing 310 kph down there into that, looks like a very small window when you're sort of halfway up the straight approaching braking. So Formula 2 around there would be nuts, especially with a bunch of drivers thinking that they want to impress and get to F1 with only one overtaking corner on the track. Smacks of desperation, but it makes for great racing.
It would be crazy, wouldn't it? We spoke on the Bahrain preview about the new format, obviously meaning that you potentially, and Jake, you've already alluded to it as well, potentially ruining your weekend with a crash in sprint race 1, for example. It could rule you out of sprint race 2. We're seeing drivers in both Formula 2 and Formula 3 probably being a little bit conservative in sprint race 1, just obviously so that they don't mess up their weekend, if you like. Are we expecting the same all season long, Hannah, and particularly in Monaco this weekend?
I would say so. I think given the format, you'd be a bit silly not to play conservative, especially this weekend in Monaco. As Jake said, it's kind of that calculated risk versus reward in the end. You're going to end up being probably more conservative. I'd say qualifying, they're all going to be pushing it because of the benefits going into the feature race, but especially maybe sprint race 1, sprint race 2, I can just see them being a lot more conservative, maybe not going for as many risky moves as they would have done under the old format. But overall, they're racers. You're probably going to get a fair few of them that'll go for the overtakes regardless of the risk or not, just to see what happens. And I think that'll be the exciting bit, to see how drivers weigh up the risk versus reward in the end.
Yeah, the risk versus reward, that's exactly it, isn't it? And Jake, I just wanted to get your opinion on the new format. What do you make of the new format? I haven't seen it in Formula 2 and Formula 3 now as well.
I mean, personally, I think even if I was racing in F3 or F2 this year, I would prefer it. I mean, I spoke to Dan recently, ticked him about it. And, you know, on one hand, you sacrifice race weekends, which impacts your kind of getting into a rhythm, let's say, of having more race weekends over the course of the year. There's more gaps in between. There's more time to speak with your engineers and the team and fix what you feel needs fixing. But likewise, having more races on one weekend places the emphasis on getting it right. I mean, if you're having a bad weekend last year or in the past, you would worse lose 2 races. Now you lose 3. And that's just, you know, about either a bad setup or someone misfortune. That's going to hurt more. I mean, when I watched in Bahrain and then even watched F3 in Barcelona, I found it quite difficult to keep up with it for the first attempts in Bahrain, especially when I saw the different soft tire compounds and hard tire compounds in Bahrain, the strategies being played out. It made it difficult with the feature race and sprint races being the opposite way around now to sort of get the grips with that to begin with. But I think it works quite well, honestly. I think, like you say, you will see guys taking it easy or trying to be measured in the first sprint race to lose 2 races instead of just 1. But I think, you know, the feature race is always kind of the more measured one. The sprint race is the one everyone goes for. And now you have that kind of spectacle on Sunday of the feature race and the strategy being played out. But on the Saturday, you have 2 flat out races to sort of enjoy and watch. And I quite like it.
Now, there's a few drivers who need a strong weekend this weekend, but probably none more so than Robert Schwartzman if he's still to be in championship contention. But is that on his mind? I caught up with him last week to talk about the start of the season and the season ahead. First of all, Robert, thank you very much for joining us. How are you and what have you been up to since Bahrain?
I'm good, thanks. Well, training and just preparation. We done the test in Barcelona and now we're here preparing for Monaco.
In terms of this season, is the championship still the aim for this season, or are you simply just, you know, looking to continue to develop and take it race by race?
Well, I mean, championship is the key, is the most important thing there is. But at the same time, each race, it's also key. But I mean, now that I take the second year, I just need to be more consistent, I think, and just need to put everything together. I think the pace and the speed we have, which is a very important thing, and the experience and knowledge in the racing and the strategies we also have. So, as I said, just need to deliver the job. But like from what happened in Bahrain, there is still some things I didn't know and I had to learn. But it's, you know, it's always an experience and it's always a good thing to learn something new.
Adam, he was many people's favourite for the championship pre-season, but he didn't have the best of starts in Bahrain. Rightly or wrongly, you know, you're only as good as your last race in motorsport, but he's still a serious contender for the championship, isn't he?
Yeah, of course he is. Just going back to the race format discussion we had a minute ago, it can be rewarding and it can be horrible to you. And unfortunately, Schwartzman had a weekend that was horrible to him. He didn't have the best race 1. I think it was race 2. He crashed into Roy Nissany on the first lap, ruined his race, ruined Nissany's race as well. And then he's fighting a losing battle from there. But I think with Formula 2, every driver has a bad weekend. I know with 8 races, it's less chance to have a bad weekend, but there will be times where the likes of Joe and Lawson and Deruvla, the top guys, they will have poor races and they will have poor qualifyings and they'll crash in some races. And there's definitely chance for him to get back into it. He took a lot of wins last year, a lot of points. Really, really impressive for me in his first season. So it's definitely no win it over for him yet. But yeah, he has really got to bounce back and show what he's made of.
And Hannah, we spoke about Robert Schwartzman on the post-test show. Is he feeling the pressure of there potentially being a Formula One seat up for grabs at Alfa Romeo at the end of the season?
His first and main focus can't be thinking about an F1 seat. It has to be ultimately fighting for that title, because he knows that is the biggest priority right now. And so I would say it'll weigh on his mind a little bit, but he just has to put it on the back burner for now and go forward into Monaco fighting. And it's been a good track for him. He was on the podium there back in 2017 in Euro Cup. He's one of the few drivers that's had experience there in the past couple of years. So I'm excited to see. I think we'll have a better assessment of what his season's looking like going into Monaco and after the weekend's over.
It is the fickleness of fans sometimes, or people, that we all start thinking, oh, Robert Schwartzman, he's had one bad weekend, and I mean, he hasn't lost his talent overnight, has he? I mean, he's still Robert Schwartzman, and he's still the guy that finished fourth in the championship last year. He hasn't lost his talent overnight, has he?
No, absolutely. I think it is one of the things of everyone's opinion changes race to race. You could be the king of the hill one weekend, and you can be people wanting you out of the series the next. I think it is the fickleness ultimately of kind of reviewing drivers and reviewing racing, but it might just be what happened in Bahrain. Yes, the track he'd previously done well at, but it's just one weekend. It might not have suited him. Everyone has a bad day in the office, so I can't really hold it against him for not having the greatest weekend in Monaco, although he is 8th in the championship, so you could argue, yeah, it's not a perfect day in the office, but overall it was a solid one.
Yeah, he's come out of it 8th in the championship, as you say, and it's not, if that's going to be your worst weekend of the season, then I don't think that's a bad weekend to have, is it? So Robert Schwartzman, only one of only a few drivers to have more than one race worth of experience around Monaco. His teammate Oscar Piastri is another. Hannah spoke to Oscar to see how beneficial that's going to be going into this weekend.
I've got to keep my expectations realistic, but like you said, I'm ironically one of the more experienced people at Monaco on the F2 grid. So I think Joe and Boschung are the only two that have actually been there in F2. And besides that, I think Robert and myself are probably the only people that have been there more than once. I think certainly when I went there for the first time in Formula Renault, I think I was 17 at the time, at that point, I definitely wanted to win it more than any other weekend, because obviously it's Monaco, but in the grand scheme of things, it's worth the exact same amount of points. And, there's nothing, besides the glamour of winning Monaco, there's nothing, you don't get anything extra from winning in Monaco. They don't hand you the championship trophy there and then. So, keeping calm and not becoming desperate in the sort of view of Monaco glory is always important.
He didn't rule out winning the title when you spoke to him. He seems quietly confident, doesn't he?
I think it was quite interesting chatting to him about being in championship contention, because I think for a lot of the drivers, it was an interesting dynamic in the sense that they've all got their eye on the prize, but ultimately I think they're taking that very measured race by race strategy and not letting things get ahead of themselves. We've all seen it in other series where one person's a front runner for most of the season, and then, for example, look at Mick Schumacher last year. He wasn't in championship contention probably until midway through the season, and then suddenly shot all his way to the title. And I think it proves overall that kind of measured approach. I think Oscar has to be probably one of my favourites for the championship. I think it did surprise me how well the rookies did compared to a lot of the more experienced drivers, and I think he's shown that level of maturity and analysis of race by race. The fact that he didn't think that his race 2 in Bahrain was his best race of the weekend was quite strange for me, because obviously he won. But I think overall it shows that the drivers this year are having such a level-headed approach to the championship, and knowing that given the shorter calendar, given the 3 races across the weekend, is ultimately every single race is going to matter, and there's kind of no kind of room for error, where there may have been, say, last season, where you had more race weekends and more time to kind of build yourself up after a bad weekend, whereas this time is bigger gaps. But if you have a bad sprint race one, it can ruin your whole weekend.
Yeah, we'll definitely want to watch this weekend. Jake, you know how difficult it is, that transformation from Formula 3 to Formula 2. How I know you've already alluded to it, but how impressed were you with Oscar and how he's naturally stepped up very quickly, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. I mean, he's obviously with a very professional outfit in Prema, which seemed very good at coaching the drivers through any transition, into F3 from other formulas and then into F2. I mean, like I said, he's got a wise head on young shoulders. He's he seems very attacking when he needs to be, very forthright in his overtaking, but very measured in terms of, he seems like he's already thinking of the big picture already from round one in terms of the championship. I think he's very confident in his own ability, especially after his past 2 years winning in Eurocup and Formula 3. And he's got a strong teammate as a comparison in Robert, which I'm no doubt he's very motivated to beat and put one over on. And also another point to throw in the mix is obviously he's the rookie of, I think, 3, or I don't know if there's 4, but I think 3 Alpine juniors. The other 2 being Christian and Joe, obviously, which are not rookies in the championship. So if he was to have a very strong year and beat them, for example, even, I don't, let's for the sake of argument, say it's not even for the championship, but he finishes in front of them, he has a strong chance, if a seat becomes available at Alpine. So many motivations for him, but I'm impressed with what he's done so far.
Yeah, and that was the point I was just going to pick up on and ask you, Adam. If Oscar Piastri or Christian Lundgaard or Guan Yu Zhou for that matter, if they go and win the Formula 2 Championship this season, is that going to give Alpine a headache next season? Bearing in mind they've got Alonso tied down to a 2-year deal, potentially. They've got Esteban Ocon on the seat. You've heard rumours about Pierre Gasly knocking on the door, and then if you throw one of those guys into the mix as well, I mean, it's not a bad problem to have. But is Oscar, for example, going to go and give Alpine a bit of a headache?
It's a competitive field. There's loads of good drivers, loads of great older drivers like Alonso, and loads of incredible younger drivers like Oscar Piastri, and they can't have them all in one team. So it's definitely going to be interesting. I think, if he wins the title, they've got a real headache. But if not, I think they'll let him have a second season and go on, go and win that title now, and you've got a seat lined up for you.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see how it develops. It's still May, so I don't know why we're talking about we're getting into silly season already, but we will wait and see what happens. Now, obviously, Monaco is a circuit renowned for the very best drivers standing out. Ayrton Senna, obviously, in Monaco, for example. We have a few street track experts in the Formula 2 field, none more so than Dan Ticktum, 2-time Macau winner. Is he one to watch this weekend, Adam?
I think Dan Ticktum is always one to watch in Formula 2 for race wins and generally for entertainment. Great racing, very quick driver. Won twice in Macau. I'm not an expert. I've never driven a street circuit, but I can imagine it's quite a similar challenge, Macau to Monaco. Tight walls, fast, difficult. All the drivers love it. So yeah, especially in the Carlin, he definitely will be one to watch. But like we've mentioned so many times, there are so many contenders.
Jake, you know damn well, you've raced against him in Macau, obviously. Is this the perfect weekend, the perfect opportunity for him to take his first pole in Formula 2 and really, dominate a weekend?
I think obviously it's quite difficult to dominate a weekend, especially with the new format. But I feel like Dan, I mean, you said before with obviously his Macau victories, he's very... seems to go very well at a street track. I think Carlin also have got a very rich history at street tracks, especially Macau. I think they've done quite well in Formula 2 over the years as well, and GP2 previously. So I feel like Dan mixed with that team and this car as it seems to be going at the moment, I think should be a good combination. I think Dan's very motivated for it. I think he sees this as his last chance to get to Formula 1 this year. And I think he had a very, as I said before, he had a very strong first weekend. Maybe didn't deliver the points he wished or probably felt like he was capable of. And I think he's probably looking to bounce back this weekend.
But again, incredibly strong in all 3 races, wasn't he? He was competing at the front in all 3. I know he had contact in 1 or 2, but competing at the front in all 3 races. He did have a strong weekend, didn't he?
Dan's a very good driver. I mean, I feel like Dan gets, partly maybe because of his radio communications, Dan gets a bit of flack unnecessarily sometimes. But and obviously his language can sometimes be quite funny or one to be desired, left to be desired. Sorry, but you can't dispute his driving and especially his pace. He's just, I wouldn't say he's one speed flat out all the time. I think he's become a bit more measured than that as he's matured. But, his pace is lightning. And as we keep saying, on a street track, it seems to be that he seems to find another gear quite often.
Monaco is obviously typically a low deg tyre circuit, obviously lower speed corners, for example. Does that play into the hands of the rookies that they don't have that tyre management to deal with as much?
It's definitely not a disadvantage. Like I say, it's more about, and as you say, it's more about tyre warm-up, going through the team before the weekend about your out prep strategy, or even out prep strategy in quali, to sort of bring those tyres into the right window for that qualifying lap, especially about getting them up to temperature after a safety car period or VSC, after a pit stop or whatever. That will be what every team and driver is sort of focused on, I imagine, at the moment. I don't want to say that they're definitely not any advantage, the rookies, but yeah, I think not having that extra curveball of the Formula 2 tyre where we saw in Bahrain to deal with, I think can only aid them in sort of leveling the playing field, so to speak.
To get a little bit more of an insight into the tyre wear this season, we spoke to Mario Isla from Pirelli, who was talking to our very own LA.
Does your approach on tyres change for the lower speed circuits like Monaco?
In Monaco, we have the two softest compound in the range. That is clear because Monte Carlo is a unique circuit, is a straight circuit with an asphalt that is very, very smooth. Is not really representative of the other circuits, and we cannot make a tire that is specific for Monte Carlo. So, but because of that, also the strategy have to be planned in a different way with a different approach. And especially maximizing the qualifying. That's the key in Monte Carlo.
This will sort of be new information anyway, won't it? Because obviously last season there was no Monaco race for Formula 2, so the information coming in will be brand new. Yeah.
They never raced in Monte Carlo on the 18 inches tires. I'm not just talking about the tire itself, but the compounds are new. As soon as we have the product on track, we start thinking, okay, what can we do to improve? What can we do to make a better tire, to supply a better tire? And every year you have new ideas, new possibilities to develop something better.
Now, we've got a few questions from fans for each of you, if that's okay. So, question number one from @WRL.Russell. This is to you, Jake. Asks, in your opinion, who was the better driver in GP3 and Formula 2? Was it Charles Leclerc or was it George Russell?
I never actually raced George myself. I raced Charles in 2016. My claim to fame is that I beat him to the first pole of that year in Barcelona, so I'm holding that one close. But no, I think it's hard to say. I think Charles is more exciting. Maybe I don't want to. That's not a disservice to George, but I think George is very clinical in the way he delivers his weekend. You quite often see him even slower than he's out qualified his teammate every single race in Formula 1, but you sometimes see him slower than even Robert Kubica or Nicholas in free practice on a Friday, and then he just delivers at the right moment. He picks his moments. I think he's I can't remember how he went in Formula 2 actually in Monaco, but I remember him crashing in the sprint race, so let's leave that one. But yeah, he's I see him as very all round. I see Charles as very exciting and very sort of like send it kind of mode, and I feel like George might be better over a championship year, but that's a tough one to call.
Adam at Luke_Buckle12 asks, the new format works well in Bahrain, but will it have the same effect in Monaco this weekend?
It's a difficult question to answer, really. I think with the new format, you kind of get drivers having different ideas on what they want to do in the race based on their grid position. So if you qualify on pole, you start 10th for the first race. You just want a clean race, stay in the points, get high up the grid in the second race, and then you've got that third race to really go for it. If you're just outside the top 10 in qualifying, obviously you don't get the bonus of reverse grid for race one. You want to get in those points. So you're going to go and try and get in the points to get that pole or second place for race two, because that gives you the opportunity for 15 points for the win. And then you've got the feature race to try and sneak in the points again. So I think it definitely brings a new dimension, but whether it will change their outlook from Bahrain to Monaco based on the track, I'm not so sure. I think it'll be very similar. They'll have their game plan, what they want to do, and I think it could be similar to what we saw in Bahrain.
And Hannah, a question from me actually to you. We know Monaco isn't renowned for overtaking. Do reverse grids mean that we're going to see 9 different drivers on the podium this weekend?
I don't think so. It's a difficult one because I think naturally reverse grids would lead probably more variety in terms of the drivers on the podiums, and obviously in terms of the lack of overtakes. But I think 9 different drivers is maybe pushing it a bit. I would say there's got to be 1 or 2 drivers that'll make it up there for both, possibly. I feel like the statistical likelihood of having an incident and things like that at the front, especially if you've got 2 drivers, I would joke, no heroics into Sandoval or anything like that. If one of them goes for it and something goes wrong, you will ultimately have a lot of drivers capitalising on it.
Yeah, let's wait and see. I'm very excited for it. And that's all we have time for today. Hannah, Adam, Jake, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. We will, of course, be back next week to review the Monaco weekend, so keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, if you want to get involved in the conversation, make sure you do so on Discord or on our social media channels, and you'll find the link for all of those on our website or in the link below. If you enjoyed the show, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. But from me, Fraser Ford, and everyone here at Inside F2, we'll see you next time.